All right. So I am so excited today. We are going to be talking about getting your kids prepared for kindergarten. I know that school is coming up, and I am looking forward to seeing those pictures of the kids' first school day. I love watching those pictures. My friends put them up, and like they even put like year after year. But before we get into that and all the wonderful things that go along with that, I've got to introduce my special guest today. We have Miss Stefanie, who's an experienced reading teacher, teaches math for pre-K through first grade. Welcome, Stefanie.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So I know we talked a little bit yesterday, getting ready for this interview about, your love of reading, and I can't wait to get into it. But part of it is like telling people, I think a lot of people don't know what exactly do you do? Like if you had to explain what you do to someone who doesn't know, which I know a lot of people don't, what do you do as a tutor and what do you wish everybody understood about your job as a tutor?
So I particularly work with the younger ones, so anywhere from like 4 years old to, first grade. Um, but I work with them on, at that age, it's really, what do the parents want me to work on? Do they want me to teach the kid how to read or start with letters and sounds? Um, so with that, one of my little kids started when he was only 4, and we started with letters and the sounds that they make. And then, we just went on from there, and it's been a year, he's reading. Um, after he knew all his letters and sounds, we started with like beginning blends, like BR, for
Hmm.
example, bread. And now he's doing spelling tests. So we'll have, either a beginning blend we're focusing on or a digraph, which is like SH or
Okay.
PH.
Okay.
And then I'll give him a list of like 10 words, and I'll send him home to mom and dad, and he'll focus on that particular digraph for the week, and then he'll have a little spelling test the following week. Um, so
And
yeah, I mean,
this is all in 1 year, Stephanie. That's amazing. So you went from reading just letters to
I
reading
mean,
words.
he was pretty advanced for a 4-year-old, but yeah, he pretty much knew some of his letters and sound. He knew his letter recognition. He could tell you all his letters. The sounds is something we started with, and then yes, within a year, he's reading passages and little paragraphs. And it's very great to see, the just the progress he's made in
Yeah.
such a short time.
Yeah, that's really exciting. I mean, I just, I remember like being a parent and not like wanting, I couldn't wait till my son could read, you know, and you get to see this. So tell me more about what is it that you did? What do you think were like the biggest things that you did that really helped him? Could you tell me a little bit about maybe just one or two things?
Yeah, I mean, I think focusing on just one thing for the whole week or week and a half, for example, like I said, like SH. So we would focus on that. So he would have a list of spelling words with SH. He would have the reading passage would focus on SH, and we would do a couple worksheets focusing on SH. So
Mm.
everything was within that same couple letters, if you will. And and if it seemed like, by the time it was time for the spelling test, he really just didn't know them, then, we would wait and we would keep working on that same thing until he really got it. And then every few weeks, I'll go back and review all the ones we've learned so far. So,
No,
yeah.
those are great. And I know I'm probably throwing you off. I'm giving you all kinds of like questions, but it's so interesting because we talked about this, like this idea of getting ready for kindergarten, which is kind of the theme for today, right? You just described, and maybe we could look at like some tips that you might give, even a few tips. But you just described really focusing in on something. Like you didn't just kind of like move on quickly, did you?
No. And a lot of times, when kids first learn their letters and sounds, it is like a letter a day and, you kind of move on. But this is more, you really want to drill it and you really want, I would even show like a little video that, like a 2-minute video. I don't know if you've ever heard of Jack Hartman or it's called like Rock and Learn. It's on YouTube Kids. And
Okay.
they're just like 2-minute videos that it's like a song and dance about those couple letters. So yeah, just focusing on those couple and until you really feel like he gets it.
And does the student like those videos?
Oh yeah,
Like,
I feel like the moms love those song and dance videos, and I love them too. So
I, side note, like we couldn't play too many kids songs. I know I'm giving away my husband now. He might get mad at me later, but like we couldn't play too many of those kids songs because like he was like, I tapped out, I can't take it anymore. So I'd have to play him when he wasn't around. But I like those too a lot.
oh my gosh, and when I taught kindergarten in the classroom, I was all about the songs, and I don't know, I just feel like it really helps it stick for sure.
It's true. It's true. And studies show that, right? Like when you use music and rhythm with words, and that's what you're doing with your student, right? What you're using the music and that's helping him to learn. You're adding, I mean, we talk about like different learning modalities in teaching a lot, but you're adding so much to it. I heard so many different activities. You're doing worksheets, you're doing videos, video clips, like you listed quite a few number of activities to make sure that he wasn't just like getting a surface level understanding. He was really deeply understanding and even spiraling back, right? Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, definitely. I'm sorry, there's a little noise in the background.
No worries.
I was like, what was it? Yes, for sure. All different kinds of things, just because I don't want to do the same thing for the whole lesson because then it's not that exciting. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, time to switch it up and do something different. You can tell when the kid's kind of ready for something different. Like, okay, let's take a break for a little video, or so.
Yeah, which means you're responding, right? And being in the classroom as well. Like you're responding to what the student's needs are at that moment. I mean,
Right.
something parents can take away as a, possibly even a tip is like you're noticing whether your child is getting tired, whether
Mm,
they need to switch up the activities. It sounds like you just have like this bag, this unending bag of different activities. Is that correct? Am I saying that right? Because I,
I
I,
wish.
I would.
I don't feel that way, but I do. I have a few things up my sleeve, but I'm always looking for more and things to excite the kids, and especially with the little ones. They to get them to sit for 30 or 40 minutes, that's a big deal. So got to kind of keep it exciting.
No, and that's another really good point. Like I've heard parents say before, like from our teachers that work with our kids, is like, wow, our teachers are able to get our kids, their kids, the parents' kids, right? To sit for 30, 40 minutes. And I think I just told you the same thing yesterday. I was like, I can't believe it, Stephanie. You're working with a 4-year-old and you're getting them to sit for 40 minutes engaging in reading. That's phenomenal. Right? A lot of parents like, I can even get them to sit for 15 minutes. They're ready to, like, I saw this on a group the other day. They're ready to go. Like, math
Yeah.
is done, reading is done, 15 minutes, they're capped out. What's your secret here? Like, can you share
Well,
like something?
honestly, it really depends on the kid. I'm sure there are kids out there who could only do like a 15-minute lesson. This one particular kid that I work with, he can sit for 40 minutes. And, I can tell when he's not super in the mood to, wanting to be doing the lesson, or he'll flat out tell me, when is this over? Or, but then I just switch it up. And again, not all kids can do 40 or even 30 minutes. But, like I said, I just try to keep switching things up and try to keep it as exciting as possible.
And it must be, I mean, it must be working. I mean, again, it's not, it's not the average. Even if the kid you say is like, quicker than maybe most, but still from going from not even just having letters and not having all the sounds to going to reading, and you're not just saying like sentences, you're saying like passages. That's, I mean, like even like multiple sentences is a big deal.
I
So,
know. And, in a kindergarten class, I wasn't used to kids moving this quickly. So yeah, I mean, maybe it's the one-on-one thing that, because I can actually help the kid with exactly what they need. When you have a class of 25, you can't always. But yeah, it's pretty incredible how fast, kids can learn to read.
yeah, no, it's working with one-on-one. I think I've heard that before as well. Like working on one-on-one, you can see a big change because, and I know that sometimes this can also happen in group classes. So I don't want to dismiss that because our classes are actually really small and, not even more than 8. But I want to say that there's something about the setup. I'm already hearing like all these different activities you're doing, you're tailoring it to the students, you're responding to their needs, and you're doing it in a very systematic way, where you're hitting those things that they need. So
Right.
yeah, so it's, I mean, I definitely want to attribute all that really great work and maybe talk about like a little bit more. What are some things that might be challenging, like a little bit more challenging? It sounds like a lot of things are smooth, but there's also some things that, right, like you said, he doesn't always get it. He's not always just understanding everything.
No.
So how do you deal with the challenges in tutoring?
So, and again, with the little ones, I find something most challenging is, sometimes the behavior because they are young and kind of fidgeting or like doing things over here that I don't, I can't see. I don't know what they're doing. A lot of times, which I don't want to depend on parents to help, necessarily with the behavior, but sometimes with the little ones, that is important for the parents to kind of like be close by and make sure they're,
they're on track, right? Yeah, that's definitely something that I think I also am big about, like at the beginning while you guys are getting acquainted, right? That's a big time to have parents around for tutoring.
right.
Like, I mean, right now, do you feel like the parent needs to be there as much, or
No, definitely not. For sure at the beginning, and then now they don't need to be around, like right there, but definitely close by, so that if the child is having a hard day, or even just a text away or an email away, so that they know, if I either text them during the lesson real quick and say, he's kind of off task today, can you come in and have a little chat with him? Or after the lesson, just give him a little update through an email, And I try to do both ways, your child did really great today. He got 10 out of 10 on his spelling test, and, but then I also sometimes, she was a little off task today. I just wanted to make sure you can have a little chat with her so that next time, we can get back on track.
No, that's
I think with the little ones, having a parent's communication, well, with everyone for sure, but communication is key with the parents.
No, I'm glad you brought that up because I've worked with like a 5-year-old in this last year, and there's one day where he just had like a meltdown, and I completely thought it was me at first. I'm like, oh no, I pushed this button by telling him he couldn't do an activity, and I was like, wait a second. The parent communicated back to me, what was going on that day, and
Right.
especially, I mean, I feel like older ones too, but they'll tell you, like if you ask
Right.
them. But the little ones, it's so helpful to have the parent around to communicate that, give context to what's going on.
Right. I mean, it is, like you said, in the beginning, it was nice having parents right there. But as we got to know each other, it is nice to have, it's just us and the parents, in the other room, but knows what's going on, So, but yes, it's definitely helpful. Sometimes you get to that point where you're kind of like, ooh, I don't really know how to handle this. So, mom, can you step in,
Yeah. And it's three-way. I mean, it's us with the kids, with the parent. It's a team effort, I always say,
Yes, for
right?
sure. I agree.
Not just us, like with the kid. We want like that feedback. And I think like I do it, but you do too. It's like, hey, this is how things are going. What are some things that we're looking for next, right? What are some things that are going on, or what are some things that we can work on to improve?
For sure. Yeah, it's definitely nice to have feedback.
That's really important. So as a tutor, like I like to check in maybe quarterly, but it does, I mean, I might not always be able to do that, but like, yeah, hearing from the parent what's going on, what they're seeing, and then also hearing like sometimes like, I mean, I think your kiddo is going to school this year, right?
Yes.
So
And so, I just kind of checked in and, I know the kiddo's going to be going to school this year. You still want to keep tutoring um, and yeah, they let me know that they feel that he's being challenged with me and maybe more so than at school. And so they were like, yes, definitely, please just keep it going. So yeah.
that's just like we were talking about, that really like that's big, like, and I think parents who are watching, right? That when you go to school, even if your school is absolutely great at so many things, there might be an area where either your child is needing more because they're ahead,
Right.
or possibly needing more because they're struggling in that area.
Right. Both ways. Right.
So for kindergartners, does it matter if they're already ahead of the class? Do you think that's a big deal, or you think they'll be okay?
So when I taught kindergarten, I would have kids come in that were like basically reading already. And then I would have kids come in that didn't know any letters, no sounds, they didn't know the letters in their name. And so as a kindergarten teacher, you kind of have to figure out obviously where kids are and then what to work on with those particular kids. So I don't think there's anything wrong with being ahead. I think um, I think sometimes parents might worry, if my kid knows too much, are they going to go and to kindergarten and be bored? I don't think that's the case. I mean, I really do feel that kids going into kindergarten knowing a lot already, it kind of gives them a sense of confidence.
Mm.
But yes, there's that other piece that you want them to be challenged still. And either hopefully there's something at the school, like another program or something that could help challenge them, or there's us. We can, they can come to me or another tutor, and we can help challenge, keep going with the things they're learning at school, or higher up things, help them with that. So I don't think it's bad to go into kindergarten knowing a lot. I think it gives them an advantage, actually.
That's great to hear. That definitely would relieve me. I mean, like I would be so worried, about what happens if my kid is like advanced, and what's going to happen if they go into school. Now, okay, on the other side of things, what if they're really behind and they go into kindergarten? Like, what does it even mean to be behind? Is that
And
even
that's the
possible?
thing. Yes. And that's the thing. You think like kindergarten is the first year of school, like that's when they're going to learn everything. And it's true. But because there are kids that are coming in that, know some, and well, I guess the things that they're expected to know in kindergarten nowadays than when I was a kid, it's very different. Kindergarten when I was a kid was like preschool. Now there's standard, depending on the state, but there's standards and, stuff they have to know in order to go to first grade. So I would say that I have a 4-year-old daughter, and I work with her at home on letters and sounds, and she's not reading yet, and that's okay. But I just think it's important to go to kindergarten with a little bit of background. And that's another thing I could help with, is if kids don't know any letters, any sounds, that's where I would start with them.
Yeah, I had a girl I was working with at one point in time who just struggled over and over. Like if you showed her a letter, it just wasn't clicking. Like if you showed her a number, she would say the wrong number. So
Hmm.
you could help with like stuff like that, where like maybe I'm too busy, I don't have much time to go over the letters, or like maybe what would you do? Do you feel like that kind of situation, like the one-on-one attention would really help her out?
I do. I think, let's say, like you said, they're struggling looking at the letter and they just don't remember it. I would bring in like a song for each letter, and I don't want to say flashcards because it's not that, but show an uppercase A, a lowercase a, and introduce a word to go with it, so that every time we think of the A, let's say we think of I'm trying to think of the one, but alligator, and then we
Mhm.
make a motion with it. So A
Oh,
is
how fun.
ah. B is for
Yeah.
ball, b. And it really helps with like the motions and the songs and the dance and it all, I think, helps it click. And when I would start in my kindergarten class every morning, we'd go through the alphabet. The cards would be up high on
Yeah.
the and I would have my little pointer and I would point, and they knew A alligator, B ball, C cat, I don't remember what it was, but we'd have like a motion, and sometimes I would let the kids help with like, oh, what's a good word for C, and what should we do? So then they really, remember.
Oh, I can see the engagement already. I love the actions. When I was little, I loved to do like singing and dancing. And this
Yeah.
little girl I was talking about would have loved to do that because she loved to, she loved to draw, remember? Right? She loved to like perform. And so
Yeah, that's how my daughter is. So, yeah, and that's helpful for most kids. They like to move.
yeah, they don't like to sit still. So that gives that full motion. I would have never thought of that at all. Like the whole like alligator and the cat thing. Gosh, that's so cool. I mean, I don't think we even did songs. We were like, well, other than the ABCD song, but that's so traditional. But we just did flashcards. See, there's so many things I didn't know. Like I could have learned so much more. We could have done even more. We did like spelling words. We didn't even know what to do with spelling words when we were working with our son. So
I
there's so
know. I know. It was different when we went to school. It was definitely different.
Yeah, so all these new ideas, and I feel like sometimes parents are like, where do I go? What do I start with? What do I even do? So like having somebody like you could just like ask questions of like what kind of activities, or does that sound like something like what kind of activities should I do with my kid, or what kind of like things that you're teaching? How
Hmm.
can I like kind of practice maybe throughout the week? Does that sound like something that makes sense to do after your lessons? Continue.
Yeah, even sending, if the parent wanted to, I could just send an email giving, which I do, but it's more like a worksheet, and I'll ask the parents to work on this with my kid, or practice these spelling words. But yes, I could definitely email and say, we've been working on A through F, and then these are the actions we do with them, and the word that, so just practice these with your kid, and or even, yeah, just like little homework activities to do. Let's say we meet once a week, then the rest of the week mom or dad can work with them on that, and then we could come back the following week and move on, or not, depending on where they are.
Well, it sounds like you already are giving activities. So I don't want to add more to your plate, but it sounds like you already have things that you feel are really relevant to what the students needing. So do you have a story or something that inspires you? Like, why do you love teaching reading and occasionally math as well? Why do you love doing it so much? What it makes you feel inspired to kind of show up and just be your best for these students?
Something that I don't know, it's just really inspires me is when an old student of mine, either, they, I don't know, like get in touch with me when I was teaching in the school. And then years later, they would come back and see me and, I was Miss Byrne at the time, Miss Byrne. And, I remember when I learned how to do this in kindergarten and you were my favorite teacher, those kinds of things. That's a big deal. I was just, it was funny. I was actually, I ran into one of my old kindergartners who I want to say she's like 16 now, at basically my daughter's swim class. I take her to this lady, and the lady also coaches this girl I had when she was in kindergarten, her little sister, and who's only 2 years old now. So the 16, so just talking to the mom, and she remembers, she talks about, oh, Olivia loved you and you were just starting out, I was fresh out of college, and just knowing that I made an impact and a difference in these kids' lives, and 10 years, 15 years later, they still remember kindergarten. That makes me really happy. So
that's huge. I mean, kindergarten's like that first big experience, and you want kindergarten to be so meaningful. And I think like even as like outside of this kindergarten classroom, you're still able to bring that kindergarten spirit, to the one-on-ones and whatever small groups, right? And it brings that touch. I mean, I always have great memories of kindergarten was fun.
It was so much fun. And, they have to know academically so much more than they used to, but I feel like you still have to make it so fun for them. They're still little.
Yeah, it's important. I think it's really important. Having fun and then still learning a lot. And I think paving the way, I think we talked about this a little bit, paving the way for the future. Like when you teach, okay, so you talked about letters, you talked about sounds, but you do more, right? Once they get to the point where they're reading sentences, you go deeper, like reading comprehension. What exactly is that? Like, what does it mean to start with reading comprehension at the kindergarten level or the first grade level? It's like mind-boggling to me. So tell me more.
Yeah, so I mean, even let's just say they're reading a passage, again, focusing on whatever letters we're working on that week. So I'm trying to remember what the last one was, but let's say it was like Bert's burn or something. So it was like focusing on like the R controlled vowels. So like ER and UR. So it's like it's called Bert's burn. And it's this little like 5-6 sentence passage about this, it's really silly, but like a little guy who got sunburned and, and he saw the nurse, nurse has the UR. And I don't know, somehow there was a purse and, like all that.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the story, I just ask a couple questions, even things, some of them comprehension about the story or some thinking further. What could Bert have done so that he didn't get a sunburn? And they have to think, well, he could have stayed in the shade. He could have put sunscreen on, or other questions specifically about the story. And, they just have to remember what they just read. A lot of times, even us as adults, we read and then we're like, wait, what did we just read about? You kind of just read the words, but you don't understand or didn't comprehend what you're reading. So it's really important that kids understand what they're reading, not just read the words. So I just ask them questions about the story to make sure they actually understood what they were reading.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not saying it but in a bad way, but like, that's not just like the questions you're asking, coming from a teaching background, those aren't just like any questions. Those are really like inferential questions. You're asking kids to summarize. These are tools in your tool chest that you need. I needed them for like my AP classes, like being able to restate, being able to remember. Oh my goodness, like my poor English teacher, I couldn't remember any character's names, so I'd always put their character's occupation. because I had a horrible memory. So I'd like write the person who was the so and so who did this and this, and I just put that their occupation in it. But if I knew their name, that would be so much better because my teacher would be like, "Oh my goodness, what's wrong with her?" But yeah, I still did okay. So you can still do okay on your test, even if you don't remember the person's name. But I would have done so much better if I had the memory, worked on that and the inference. I struggled. I really struggled with reading comprehension. Like when it came to SAT time, I'm like, what do I do? How do I understand the inner and underlying meanings behind these words? Because I never practiced that. I just was
Right.
always assumed that I was supposed to be able to do it. But now that hearing from you, like these are targeted questions. They're training the kids early on to be able to
Exactly.
naturally do that.
Yeah, it's definitely, it seems like just a silly little story, which they are, but it's getting them ready for later in life when they have to read, through their textbooks, which may not be super exciting, but just picking up on key words or, important things about this, story, but important facts that they might need to know for tests or that kind of thing. So yeah, it is starting them early, just understanding what they're reading.
Yeah, so you're already preparing them. Like sometimes I think like kindergarten, oh, like we talked about, it's just fun. There's so much like you can do that's still fun, but very meaningful. Like you're forward thinking about what they need for like first grade. Is there anything in particular like you would mention that a kindergartner would need? I know we talked a lot about kindergarten, but maybe a few things that they would need to bring from kindergarten to be prepared for first grade. Is there a couple of things you think parents should make sure they know? I mean, we might have some parents or kids are going into first grade too.
Yeah, I would say, by the time they're done with kindergarten, they should for sure be reading.
Mhm.
Um, I'm trying to think, reading and also understanding what they're reading. I'm trying to think, by the end of kindergarten, what my kids, ah, it's been a while since I actually taught in the classroom, but just, I don't know, I'm having a hard time with this one.
No worries, no worries. Because I think when you're doing the one-on-one, you're already meeting the kid when they're at their need level, right? And you talked about reading, like that, just that piece of like at the end of kindergarten, they should be reading. It makes a lot of sense. So when we do the math curriculum, there are word problems already at the first grade level, like
Right,
2 3 sentence word problems. And for a
right,
kid who comes into the math class and can't read, they're they're behind because they're not getting the meaning, the inner, they're not able to talk in their head about what that paragraph means before they need somebody else to read it aloud for them. And that kind of puts
right,
them back. I think we talked about confidence. They're not going to be as confident because they're
right.
still needing that extra help where some of their classmates might not be. So
Right. Yeah, the word problems for sure. Reading is so important because they obviously have to read the problem and then the comprehension, they have to figure out, well, what am I trying to figure out here? And yeah, that can be very tricky and very challenging if they can't read the words.
yeah. So the keywords you mentioned before aren't just for like reading, like just pure reading, but the also like I can see the application in the mathematics. Um, so is there something that I guess we kind of touched on it, but is there something that parents or students should make sure that they start doing now, or maybe they're doing something, I don't know. I mean, we haven't talked about anything that they should stop doing, but maybe that comes to mind. Something that they should start doing or stop doing um, at at the kindergarten, first grade, or pre-K level.
So I think it's really important that parents read with their kids.
Mm,
Any teacher, young elementary age teacher will say, it's just so important to read with your kids. Before bed or whenever. And then once they're a little bit older and they start reading, then let the kid read to the parent, but and then they're so excited because they can read now and, like just 5 minutes before bed, or, read a little, and when they get older, you can read a chapter book, and every night, like, read another chapter, and then they're so excited to hear what's coming next. Again, it's just important to develop a love for reading at such a young age. And again, maybe the mom or dad can ask questions as they're reading to make sure they're, really listening and really understanding what's happening. And another thing I was thinking about too is just talking to your kids about their day, if they're going to school, but if they're not, let's say they're going to school already, and what was your favorite part of the day, and what's your favorite subject? Is there a subject that's hard for you? Or, just kind of getting a feel for what they're doing at school, and letting your kids know, like, you're interested and you want to know what's happening with them, when they're at school, or even when in tutoring. What did you learn with Miss Stefanie today? And did you have fun? Was there anything that was a little tricky? And yeah, I just think it's important to have those conversations with your kids, even at a young age.
That's great. I mean, I think sometimes I don't think of those things. I'm just like, here we had the session, because I'm coming from the tutor's point of view. Here we had the session, it's over, it's done with. I read the lesson summary. But then when the parent re-engages with the student about what's going on during their school or during their lesson time, it brings a whole nother dimension to the understanding. The student has to communicate too, like communicate verbally what they're learning. So I love how you're giving all these really, really good tips for parents. And what they should do, or what you recommend that they do. And I also love the reading. I mean, it doesn't even have to be that long, does it? It's just like as much as you can, or as frequently as you can. It just makes a difference. Anything, right? Anything makes a difference if you haven't been doing it all.
It does. And even, you're tucking your kid in for bed, laying there for 10 minutes. And I think it's really, kids love that too, just to have that special time.
Yeah, I remember that. My mom would crawl and we'd all sit together in bed and she'd read stories to me. And I did the same for my son. And I enjoyed when he read to me, because sometimes I was ready to flip the pages. So I was so glad when he could read it back to me, because I get a little impatient. So I'm not a good reading teacher. But but we love to read. We had a library full of books, and kids could come and get a book, and we'd always talk about our favorite books, and we talk about it as a family. Like, oh, that was my favorite book. Actually, it's kind of like a little bit of a heritage. It was my favorite book. I can't wait for you to be able to read it. So I'd pass it on to him, the one I really enjoyed. So you're bringing back memories about that. We were all excited when I could share those favorite books. And when it was his favorite too, then I was like, oh, that's even better. He liked the book that I picked out.
Yeah, and what's funny is a little off topic. My daughter, for my daughter's 4.5, my baby shower, instead of cards, people brought books, and then they wrote like a little message inside. And so she still has those. I mean, she still has those books on her bookshelf. She picks her books, and then she'll ask me, like, who is this one from? And and then we read the story, and we try to kind of figure out, why do you think Nana gave you this one? Or and that's exciting too, because they're all personalized just for her, and so she loves that.
No, that's great. That's our big connection. I mean, I think book giving is not just like the book, right? There's so much more behind it, and what it was chosen for, and the love that's expressed there. And that's a great idea. I love that they wrote messages in there.
And even for birthdays, or instead of a card, cards are like $5. You could get a $5 book and write a little message in it, and then they always have that and remember it.
That's a great idea. That's so awesome. I'm gonna have to like think about that some more, and now I have ideas for presents. I do give books, but I never write in them. So wow.
Well, then they always remember who it's from, and it's
yeah.
nice.
I can put my name in there and my signature. See,
yes, seriously.
Auntie sent you the book. All right, cool. Well, we've talked about so much, but maybe we could talk about just a few things. Like, what do you think is like, especially right now? I think this is a really relevant question. Like, what do you think is the biggest challenge that you think students are facing I mean, we had the pandemic, we're kind of still in it, like so much is going on. What are students facing right now, this age group? And maybe like a little bit, what do you think they're going to be facing like in the future, maybe even 10 years from now?
That's hard. I don't know if this is something that's just now or it's been around for a long time, but I feel like there's a lot of pressure on kids. Not only they have school and then homework and extracurricular activities and making time for friends and family, and, maybe not so much at the young age, but, just trying to kind of teach kids time management. And
Hmm.
it's a lot for little ones, and just, I do see a lot where it's like, can't we just let them be kids? Like obviously we want them to get ahead and we want them to, learn and be academic. And, but a lot of it, I feel like, gosh, there's no time for them to be kids lately. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I do think because of the pandemic, I feel like socially, like for a whole year, my daughter hardly played with any friends, and it's hard to teach them social skills, when they're not around other kids. So, I think, if kids, this is important. I think if kids are doing, online school and obviously we tutor virtually, I think it's also important to make sure they're getting out with friends or, other kids their age, to make sure they're getting those social skills, because that's just as important as academic skills.
Definitely. And then it plays into like how their behavior is, and if they get more frustrated or if they're having those kind of emotional times, like what do they do with those kind of emotions when they're really little, and then how are they able to receive, the fun times better or some of the academic moments better, based on how they're feeling. So yeah, I
Right.
think it's all.
There has to be a good balance of, being a kid, getting to play, socializing, but also learning and, academics is they're both equally important.
So I definitely understand why you try to put the fun in academics, because you want to make sure you get both at once as much as you can. I get it. I get it. So that's awesome. Well, this has been really cool. I've had so much fun talking to you.
You too.
Um, I guess maybe we can leave off with one final question. Is
Yeah.
there like anything that you wish that I asked you about that possibly you would, or something last thought that you would like to share that we didn't have a
Hmm.
chance to talk about today?
Um, well, I was thinking about one of my favorite quotes, and actually I'm gonna pull it up real quick because it's not right in my head right now. But okay. A couple of my favorite quotes I was actually thinking about. Especially in math, because I struggled with math and I do enjoy teaching it to the little ones. But I did struggle. And so I loved this quote I saw: mistakes are proof that you are trying.
Hmm.
So with
Yeah.
math, you're not always going to get the answer right, but you're trying, and I can see that you're trying. So,
Yeah.
and an example, I mean, obviously there's a million examples of that, but recently I've been working on multiplication with my little guy, and I want to say it was like 5 times 2. And I saw his wheels turning and he said 7. And I know he did addition. So he got the answer wrong, but I know that he was trying. He just did the wrong sign, he didn't addition instead of multiplication. And then another thing that I love this quote by Albert Einstein: in a world where you can be anything, be yourself. It's
Hmm.
really important to always be yourself.
That's so sweet. So you really like, like just knowing your kids, and relating with them and helping them through their mistakes and helping them to like enjoy the time with you, but still getting a lot out of it. I think it's just a lot of fun, Stephanie. I mean, that's why kids remember you like so many years later, because like of these moments where you make it fun and you make it enjoyable while they still learn, and they can see, the benefits of everything that you're showing them. So thank you so much for all you do. And
Oh, you're welcome. I enjoy it. So thank you for the opportunity.
well, great. Well, we look forward to seeing you guys, parents. Give us a call if you have any questions about anything we talked about. I know school year is coming up soon, and these tips that Stefanie gave are I think, so valuable. We'll try to put some links down below for some of the things that she talked about and resources, and feel free to message us if you have any questions. Anyways, we're signing off for now. Thank you guys for joining us.
Bye.